DJ PK, and we are joined by Big T, Thurl Bailey. Thurl, good morning.
Good morning, guys. What's going on?
Well, I'm just wondering how many more records you hold that I don't know about. How come I didn't know about that, Thurl? I didn't know until Clarkson broke your record that it was your record. You had 12 30-point games off the bench. Clarkson now has 13.
Yeah, I knew it because, we've got a lot of guys that help us with the stats and the Stoke notes and things like that. But I knew it was a record that was standing for about 33 years, and I knew Jordan was going to break it. I mean, we had conversations about it throughout the course of the year. I remember asking him; he didn't even know at first. I said, "You like records, right?" Because he had that triple double earlier in the year. He said, "Yeah, of course." I said, "Well, I hold the record for most 30-point games off the bench, and you're very close." And then when he tied it, we had another conversation, and I said, you need to go get that. And so it was just some really good banter between him and I knew it was going to come. And look, he's not done yet either, so I was happy for him. And you love to root for a guy like that.
You played all 4 years of college at NC State, right?
Yes, sir.
And, you're different players, obviously, but where I'm going with this is the comparison of Taylor Hendricks. So when you came in, you were an accomplished college player, won the title, 7th pick, I think you were, something like that. So, you were highly acclaimed. And how long did it take you to feel adjusted to the game at the NBA level to feel like, okay, I can now make a vital contribution? You talked about your points off the bench, and obviously you got to the point where you were an integral part of a really good team. You take a look at the Hendricks. I mean, he's just like a baby. He's a sophomore in a sense. And so if you compare, and you both were big guys, rangy guys, that type of player, how long do you think it'll take him? And I don't even know that it'll get to that level, but whatever level he gets to, because how long did it take you?
Well, I was only really highly acclaimed because of what we accomplished as a team in college. I mean, I wasn't like burning down NBA scouts and NBA GM's doors on, trying to get this guy. I was really fortunate to be able to be on a team that drew some national attention by being one of the best college teams in Houston Cougars. So that gave me some clout right there. Wherever my name was on that list, I think it rose because of that, because of my size, because of the ability to be able to shoot and block shots. The Jazz saw something in me and chose me at number 7. Did I think I was ready for the NBA? No, not really. I mean, I knew about kind of it being a grown man's league, and look, I only weighed 200 pounds coming out of college, so I knew I had some work to do on my game. I knew I had to develop some tendencies that would get me through. However, being drafted the number 7th pick in the first round, there's some responsibility, personal responsibility and pressure that you put on yourself that you need to perform. And I have no doubt that Taylor Hendricks felt that way. Maybe to some degree still feels that way. But, look, we didn't have – he came in at 19 years old. I was in my 20s, right. My early 20s. So with the G League and, teams that are into developing players now more than ever, he understood. I mean, I think it may have been hard earlier to accept the fact. I mean, Coach Will Hardy said the other day, if you ask a guy if he wants to play in the G League, no, they want to play in the league. They want to play in the real thing. But I think what we're finding now is that Taylor has some tangible things that can make him a really good player in this league. And I think he's in a great place to continue to develop his game. And once you let that go, that pressure go, and say, look, I'm going to take my time, I'm going to develop my game, and when I get an opportunity, I'm going to go out and try to show what I'm capable of.
And how the heck did the freaking Golden State Warriors take Russell Cross, whoever the heck that is, one pick above you?
Well, back then I kind of knew Coach Valvano would talk to me, and after he would talk to GMs, about where I may be going in the draft. So you kind of knew. You didn't know exactly, but you kind of knew. And Russell Cross wasn't a bad player coming out of college. He just didn't have really a good career, obviously, in the NBA. But like anything, it's kind of a risk, right? I mean, I was a risk. So the Jazz didn't know how I would turn out. I was fortunate. I think the championship, again, really helped put me a little bit further up on that list. And, I came to the right team. I came to the right team to develop at the right time when they were kind of struggling and the pieces were just starting to come together. So hopefully was an integral piece to at least to get the playoff run started.
You were.
Thanks.
Can guys make it in the NBA now without being a good shooter? I mean, do you have to be just a total outlier? Okay, Rudy Gobert's not a good shooter. Well, Rudy Gobert's 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. But there's 450 guys in the NBA, and there aren't 5 Rudy Gobert's. I mean, you could argue there aren't 2.
I think your chances are a lot better if you can shoot the ball. This is a make it league, right? This is a league where points are premium, and guys that can score have a better chance of making it. However, there are those guys who may not be able to knock down the corner three-pointer at a pretty good clip, that have some other intangibles. If you're undersized, you've got to be special, I believe, with something. I think a guy who's proven that and who has evolved into a pretty good shooter is Colin Sexton. I mean, Colin's a guy who, he can get to the rim anytime he wants, but he's evolved into a guy who can control that speed now and also can hit that three-point shot. I would say your chances are a lot better in this league if you can put the ball in the hole. And it doesn't necessarily have to be from 3, but if you're a threat on the offensive end, you've got a more likely chance to stick around on the team.
I'm wondering your level of, I'll use the word surprise, maybe that's not the right word, that the team, since the trades, has lost 8 of 10, and the only 2 teams they beat are combined 22 and 100, because it didn't seem like on the surface Kelly O and Simone Fontecchio were that important, but yet clearly the team is not nearly as good, judging by what I just said. So did that take you by surprise at all? You have any circumstance that you could relate to it as an ex-player as to explain it? Because it's surprising to me, but what do I know?
Well, PK, I was really shocked when the Jazz traded me back in 91 because I was having great success with this team, and we were in the playoffs every year, every season, every postseason. That took me by surprise. And what I realized after I kind of got over myself is understanding the business of basketball, understanding that teams have, GMs and coaches have a plan, right? In particular, the folks in the boardroom and in the conference room trying to put together a team to get to the next stage. And so, when I was traded to Minnesota, I wondered, well, what did I do wrong? And it really wasn't about that, right? It was really about the next phase for the Jazz. How are they going to get to the next phase? And so when I understood that, I turned it around and said, well, I was of value, and they made the trade. It wasn't anything I did or didn't do. I even think that part of it was because I had some value and they could use me in trying to get better. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. I understand it. I think it's a little difficult sometimes in this day and age, for especially younger players to understand, like an Ochai Agbaji, to be part of a trade, and you only put in 2 years here, did it mean that I wasn't good enough? They gave up on me? No, I don't think so. I think that you really have to understand what a team is trying to project. What Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck in the Jazz's case are trying to put together in the next 2, 3, maybe 4 years. So, yeah, it's a tough business, but once you've been through it, you kind of understand, why it happens. And on the other side, listen, players are responsible a lot of times too for trades happening because they want out or they want to go some particular place. But yeah, it's it's part of the business, and sometimes you learn the hard way.
When you say next 2, 3, 4 years, if it takes 4 years to get the NBA Finals, Jazz fans understand. But if it's 2, 3, 4 years to get to the playoffs, it's going to drive a lot of Jazz fans nuts. Do you have any idea the timeline they're working on? Do you think they know the timeline they're working on because trades are dependent on the other team wanting to make a deal? I mean, you broadcast the games, and to some degree the club will give you access to the way they think. But I also know there are things that they won't discuss with you. So I just wonder what sense you have of a timeline.
That's one thing that they don't discuss. And you'll hear in interviews, you'll hear Justin Zanuck and Danny, talk. They really don't talk numbers, but you have to trust and believe that there is a plan, right? I mean, there has to be. That's their job. And, sometimes that plan is painful in ways because as a Jazz fan, like you want it now, you want it soon, and you feel like in your own education of all this that Jazz have taken a step back where, Justin and Danny obviously don't feel that way. They've got a plan. There's a method to their madness, if you will. And, they're not, and part of this for them, I obviously is there's things that you don't know, right? You just try to put together the best team you can. You understand that you've got some assets and you got some young draft picks, and you've got to put them in the water and watch them swim and make your plans based on that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know anything that you don't know, but Jazz fans in general, like any other fan, I mean, they obviously want to get to that point where, we can end up in the conference finals or let's start back, but we can end up with a decent spot in the playoffs and then get to the next phase and get pieces that are going to get us there. So, you have to trust in that and hope that things work out like they're planning it.
So is OKC the model now?
That's a pretty good model. I mean, I think, when you think about, am I surprised that they were the best team in the West? I am a little bit, but it's interesting how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has just taken another step every year, and they put the pieces around him to become just a really good team. I mean, Minnesota's kind of done the same thing. But are they the model? I think in some respects they are. I mean, sometimes I think as impatient as this league is, there are teams that are patient and are, they're going to take their time and try to build the team they want and hope that it turns out in the end. But yeah, that's a good one to look at and say, well, how did they do it?
Jordan Clarkson's shooting career-low numbers from the floor and from the three-point line. I'm sure your stats people have notified you of that. How much of that is because he counts on getting to the hoop and the space around him has disappeared with the trade of a couple of good three-point shooters? And how much of it is, man, as you get older, it just gets harder. And, you went through that at some point in your career, and it sucks, but, Father Time's undefeated.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure Jordan's game is really based on speed, though. I mean, Jordan's game is based on having room to operate and being put in a position where he can operate, and also having guys around him that understand that. With the trade, yeah, I think it affected him, especially with Kelly. Kelly was a glue guy, a guy who made sure everybody got touches and put guys in the right position to be able to score. But as I said last night on the postgame show with the Lemon Mike, that, when Quinn Snyder was coaching, when they brought Jordan Clarkson in, he is a guy that there's some things that you're going to live with, because you know that on the positive side, he can give you numbers. He can light it up, literally light it up. We call him the flame for a reason. But yeah, when the landscape changes, then you have to try to adjust to that. I think there's no question that you could see on some nights the frustration with Jordan, with either turnovers or missing shots. But you understand what he comes with and what kind of nights he can have, like last night when he figures it out. So he's a different kind of player, and you have to kind of give him room offensively to operate. I will say that he has evolved. I mean, he darn near had a triple-double last night with, 38, 10, and 7, another triple-double. So those are the things, even at his age, that he still has the ability to do. So, the landscape's different, so that changes things a bit. You've got a younger team now, a little less experience. So I think with these last games left, you kind of have to rely on Jordan to kind of be sort of that leader. Not that he's going to have a game every night like he did last night, but that he's a vet on this team, and you've got to give him the freedom to be able to do that.
As you know, Thurl, I can light it up on the radio, but instead of the flame, DJ calls me the shame.
That might stick. Nice.
I just thought of that.
That's pretty good.
I'm wondering, when you're sitting there watching these games and you think back to your old days and they go to see caucus and the guys giving each other love taps, do you ever want to just go down there and say, can we get on with this? I played with guys, clothesline guys, and they may not even have called a foul. And here we are with little taps on the head or something, and we got to take 10 minutes to go to see caucus. That ever drive you nuts? Because sometimes it drives me nuts.
Yeah, it does. I mean, because I'm old school, and the game has been changed in a way that the defense can't get away with what we used to get away with. And coaches have had to be a lot more creative with their defenses, because it's just hard to stop guys. I mean, some very good players, very good one-on-one players in this league, and it's just really impossible to keep them from getting buckets. But yeah, I mean, there are those times where I look at something and I say, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, he barely touched him, but I think the officials are trying, and a lot of it's subjective as well. But there's some nights where you don't get that, and there are other nights where you just kind of scratch your head and you wonder if at some point the league has to look at it with guys scoring 50, 60, 70 points and teams scoring 150, and maybe give the defense a little bit more, not advantage, but just something that will kind of keep the scores high, but give the defense a chance. Give guys who really are into going out and stopping guys, give them an opportunity to be physical without overdoing it.
Well, Big T, I want the stats people to get on it. I want to find out what other records you own. Most 25-point games off the bench, most 10-rebound games off the bench, most 5-block games off the bench. I don't care what it is. I just want to know. I don't want to be surprised by your records anymore.
Well, if there's any more, I'll be surprised.
But he still holds most points off the bench wearing goggles.
See?
There you go. That'll never be broken.
Right, exactly.
Contacts, laser surgery.
Because Worthy and Abdul-Jabbar, they were starters.
Yep.
You guys. Oh, man.
You already regret getting up in the morning to talk to us. Why did I just tell DJ I had a meeting?
DJ and the shame.
Shame on.
Shame on.
Okay, I've got an edict from Thurl.
There
I
it
will
is.
shame on.
Thank you, Thurl.
All right, guys.